We're not Disney adults. We're just adults that like Disney.
We're not haters. We just have opinions.
We're not cat ladies, but we are childless. We're two entertainment creatives exploring culture at the intersection of fandom and our professional careers.
I'm Kaylin.
I'm Jacob.
And this is the Childless Millennials.
Well, welcome everyone to the Childless Millennials. I'm Jacob.
I'm Kaylin.
Kaylin, how have you been?
You know, I've been good.
Yeah.
I have been changed.
Have you been changed?
For
Possibly
good?
For good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, wait. So, I mean, this is the Wicked episode.
Yes. Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat. This is the Wicked episode. If you haven't ever seen Wicked, maybe stop here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or don't. Maybe this could incentivize you to see the movie.
We'll warn if there's spoilers.
Yeah.
But
we should talk about that. So are we going to...
I think we should warn if there's spoilers for part 2. But if you haven't seen the first one...
Yes.
Come back.
Welcome back.
No.
Yeah, no. Pause here. Go buy a ticket or sign up for AMC A-List so you can see the movie.
Yeah, because you're going to want to see it
12 times in a month for $25.
Yeah. What is
and then
it?
Come back.
I actually don't know of a movie that I've seen more than twice in a theater.
Theaters?
But this, I'll probably be seeing once a week until it leaves theaters.
The Greatest Showman like 4 or 5 times in theaters.
What?
Yeah, I was a huge fan. I went to the sing-along. I sure did.
Kaylin.
Yep.
No.
I absolutely did.
The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman. Zach hated me for it. I'm surprised we're still married.
I'm embarrassed for you. I just got hot. I got so embarrassed.
Yeah. Violently millennial.
Is the Greatest Showman violently millennial?
Come on.
It's
gotta
be. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we talk about the movie, I kind of wanted to talk about what does Wicked mean to you?
Okay.
Before this movie, what was Wicked to you? Because I feel like I need to answer that question in order to explain.
Yes, so much of how I feel about
what is Wicked to you?
So for me, Wicked. Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah. No. I don't want to skip over a detail for this episode. I want this to be in depth.
Yes.
Every detail. Yes.
So The Wizard of Oz has always been my favorite movie.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, you could ask anybody in my family if I was ever given the option of what we were watching, it was going to be The Wizard of Oz.
Really? Okay.
My parents were over it at some point. So my grandparents all had copies. And my grandparents were all divorced and separated and stuff. So I had it wasn't just 2 houses. Yeah. It was everybody's house.
VHS.
Had copies of the movie. And that's all I wanted to watch. And I would just replay it over and over again. And my family, my grandparents had memorized the lines and I would make them act it out with me. And my grandpa was the cowardly lion. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And if my uncle came over, he also had to participate. It was a whole ordeal. Always been my favorite movie. So then when I was probably in, I would say middle school.
Okay.
Maybe freshman year of high school. I discovered that there was a book called Wicked. And I had no idea what it was about. Now looking back.
How old were you?
I mean, if I was, let's say I was a freshman in high school. I think I was a little younger than that. But if I was a freshman in high school,
not appropriate.
Not appropriate at all. But I didn't know that. And nothing about the book indicated that. It was just this is a prequel. Yeah. And I loved The Wizard of Oz. And my grandma was this is my Southern Baptist grandmother that I had buy this for me.
Hilarious.
She was what is this book about? And I was well, it's just it's The Wizard of Oz. It's just what happened before The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And she was okay. And bought me the Wicked book. And I read it.
Is this before the musical had even come out? Or is this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so right before the musical came out.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if maybe I heard about the musical and that was the catalyst for the book or something.
Was the cover of the book the Broadway logo? Because they read the okay.
It was not. So it must have been like right before the show came out.
Yeah.
And so she bought me this book. It was not appropriate, but I was obsessed with it. Like the first time I read it, I didn't actually finish the book because I loved it so much. I didn't want it to end. So like I actually never read like the last few chapters of the book for a really, really long time. And so it was that's how it started for me. And then I saw Wicked on Broadway when I was 18, and it was the first show I ever saw on Broadway. It was actually like a really big deal for me because I was in New York.
It was your first Broadway show?
It was my first Broadway show, yeah. And like my first like it was like the first time I had ever seen a show like that on tour was Wicked. And the first time, it was my first Broadway show. And like, I've seen it probably 5 times and obviously like obsessed with the soundtrack and everything. But yeah, it was my first like live musical theater experience because that like wasn't at my high school, you know?
Right.
It was like a professional theater experience.
Right.
That wasn't like the Alhambra Dinner Theater in Jacksonville. You know, like it was like, not that that's not a professional theater experience.
No, but it's just different. Yeah.
And yeah, so I was 18, I think, when I saw it for the first time. And like, it like radicalized like so much about like my love for the Wizard of Oz. And like, I have this like whole other perspective about it. And like, yeah, I have like chills thinking about it. It was like, it was my personality for a really long time.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. My Wicked thing is that we were at somebody's house and because I was doing musical theater, you know, so like but I wasn't super aware of like what was happening in like current Broadway. I didn't know what Broadway really was. But so we were at this like family friend's house and they were like, oh, the Tony Awards just happened. It was summer, like early summer. And I didn't even know what the Tony Awards were, but they were like fast forwarding, like just to show the performances of the Tonys. And they showed the Wicked Tony performance. And I was like, what like is this show? And I was obsessed and I got the soundtrack and like, I mean, just like devoured this soundtrack. And I think the story is pretty easy to follow from the soundtrack. So you can like see it. But I just like, even before I saw it, I was so unbelievably connected to it because I just like felt so green.
Yeah.
Like at that time in my life, like I was 13 and it's not like I felt othered. Like I've been thinking about this because I think my mom like saw my Instagram post after I saw the movie and took it very personally and was like horrified. That,
sorry,
like,
Mom.
Well, but it wasn't like because she was like, I just like, you must have like hated your childhood that you felt so depressed or whatever. And I was like, this is not like, I felt like Elphaba, not that I felt like necessarily othered by people, but I was a child performer and everybody was like, you're so talented. You're so talented. I was constantly told that I had like this gift that other people didn't have. And so I felt very special as a 13-year-old, but I felt very alone because I was like doing adult professional theater. And I always struggled to connect with like my peers because I was very like guarded by my parents. And, you know, like anytime in school, there was like 6th grade camp or like sex ed or whatever, like I was always pulled out. Like I never was like with kids my age, like culturally.
Yeah.
And so I also like feel things very, very big. And I feel like when I feel those things very big, like things happen, not magically, but like I can get myself into trouble.
Is this where you're telling me that you have magic powers?
I can make things levitate. But I just loved Elphaba. Like I just loved her. Like she was just like my everything. My like screen background on my computer was like, I like photoshopped my own like Wicked background, like with like press photos, like from the Broadway website. Like I was just so obsessed with Wicked. My AIM color is green and black.
Absolutely.
Like period.
Yes.
And then I did finally I saw the first national tour in LA with I played trombone, and like the first chair trombone player like also like knew what Wicked was. So the fact that there was somebody that even knew what Wicked was, I was like, oh my gosh. And then like we bonded over that. I went to see it with her, you know, like it just was, I was so impressionable at that age, and it was just like literally my everything. And which like leads me to which we can like talk about more later, but like I like forgot that like everything I am as a person is actually because
yeah. Yeah. No, I relate to that. Not necessarily because I didn't experience the stage show that young.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool so like I saw it for the first time when I was 18. I'm 32. So it's been really cool to like come back to something that I loved so much when I first saw it, and it still feel the same way it did. Like I'm perceiving certain things about it differently because the world is different than it was when I first saw it. You know, I'm different. I'm a lot older. I have a lot more life experience. So my perception of certain things about the story is different.
Right.
But it's really, really cool to just be like immediately transported back to all of those like amazing feelings and experiences that I had with this story. I mean, really starting since I was a kid, you know?
Yeah. And I think that that's why I had a full emotional breakdown.
Yeah. I was crying so hard in the theater, like a full body, like visceral, ugly cry. I almost gave myself the ick. Like, I had to cover my face. It's a dark theater. The movie is still going. No one's looking at me. But
when was this for you? When in the movie?
This? I started full body crying during their dance sequence in Dancing Through Life.
Okay.
And then
that was going to be my guess.
And then it just got, and then so like by the time like something has changed within me, I said, "Oh, fuck me!" Like I was. And I almost gave myself the ick because I could see it like my own face in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, if anybody ever saw me crying like this, they would never want to be my friend again.
Yeah. No, I was like holding myself in the fetal position in my chair, like after the Connor. I did tell him before, I said, I give you full permission to take any content that you need, but it's like I actually didn't even reshare it because it is so like there's like it's like Oprah always talked about the ugly cry, but like it's like hideous. Like I look awful.
I know I did, and I am. Excuse me. I'm grateful that Zach was also ugly crying, so he did not pull out his phone. Like I was like in my seat, like full body convulsing, and he leans over. I can't even look at him, and he leans over and he's like, "It was really good, I guess."
Yeah, oh my God, I'm obsessed.
And the guy next to me like looks and he's like, "Oh, thank God you're crying too." Oh my! And so we just like had this whole moment with the people sitting around us, and we were like, "Okay, we'll see you same time, same place next year." It was a whole.
I was like
convulsing.
Choking.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't breathe normally until like we got home.
Yeah, it was
me with Dear Evan Hansen.
Shut up.
No, I get it. I
got her.
Stupid. I haven't had like a cathartic moment like that in a long time. And it just, you know, there's like a couple things that feel like are happening. One, it is like when Into the Woods came out, that movie, I was so the ick. I was like, everybody that was like, oh my God, like I did this production, I did Into the Woods like when I was in high school, and it just like meant so much to me, and it just like really grossed me out. I just thought it was so cringe. But I think that is a more like niche show. Like it's Stephen Sondheim. It's like pretentious and whatever. And so it was just annoying to me the way that everybody had like their story of like Into the Woods and what it meant to them. Because I was also like, this is like a masterpiece of like the depth of this story is so crazy that like you were 10 when you did the show. What are you talking about? Like, but
you were milky white, babe.
Yeah,
like,
no, literally. But for some reason with Wicked, like I actually am like so in love with how everybody like feels so connected to it. And I love that it is being shared with everybody. And I don't feel any sense of ownership with Wicked. And I love that we're all like, yeah, we all like really love this thing. And like this movie was really good. And we all like really love like, and it just, from the moment the movie started, it just felt like really big. Like it just feels like whatever is happening with this movie is really, really big. And like the world and the universe that they created was like of Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings scope and depth, and like we're all connected by this thing. But it's also because this is a 100-year-old universe.
Yeah.
You know, like like it starts with the Wizard of Oz. Like there's nothing, we were saying like Wizard of Oz is the blueprint for Hollywood film.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just is the Hollywood film that like everything came after, you know, that came before everything, you know? So then to now have this, like almost 100 years later to the film of Wizard of Oz is like, I don't know, just like really, it just is, it's just like the scope and the bigness of it is overwhelming.
Yeah. It feels very cool. And something that I have really enjoyed about like Wicked becoming such a huge part of the cultural zeitgeist right now is like, I think sometimes, I know I do, I think sometimes like I forget that musical theater actually is very niche because so many people that we know and so many people that we interact with on a daily basis are at least familiar with musical theater, if not musical theater performers, right?
Right.
And I forget how niche it actually is until something like this reminds me that like I have friends who have never heard a song from Wicked, who have never seen a stage production of it, and who went into this movie completely blind.
Oh, yeah.
Like the only thing they know is like, oh, cool, it's about the Green Witch from the Wizard of Oz, right?
It's even crazy to me because my family knows that Wicked was my everything, right?
Yeah.
But like my little brother has never seen it. Yeah. My older brother has never seen it, but like they never saw it on stage. When were they going to go? Yeah. They only see musicals if I'm in them.
Right.
You know? So like they went. And so like now they're experiencing, like I texted my little brother and I was like, need your immediate thoughts after Wicked. And he was like, outstanding with like a million exclusions. So it's like now they're also like who is closer to me, right, than my brothers that like were raised the same as me, you know? So yeah, the bigness of it is crazy. And I just like, when was the last time we had a movie that was like so highly anticipated and literally still managed to exceed the expectations of like, I'm thinking, you know, we were how old when the Harry Potter film came out? I was like 13 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I was younger than that, actually. Maybe I was like 10. I don't know. But that movie probably did exceed. Yeah. Like people felt the excitement of that film and what that meant. But like, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think too, with Potter, the movies came out when like the books were still relatively new.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Wicked book is not new.
Yeah.
And I will like asterisk here. I said this the other day, I posted it on Threads. If you're using the book as a basis for your critique of the movie, you're using the wrong source material.
Oh, yeah.
The stage show is an interpretation of the book. And then the movie,
right?
And then the movie is an adaptation of that interpretation. Yeah. So like the movie really is twice removed from the book. But having said that, to say like Potter the books were still very big and very popular when the first movie came out. This is something that has been decades in the making to get to this like big of a cinematic experience, which I think also contributes to why it feels so monumental.
Right. And that ultimately everybody does know how this story ends, right? Because of the Wizard of Oz.
I think they do.
Yeah, but like everybody knows that the Wicked Witch, that Dorothy will throw a bucket of water on the Wicked Witch and she will melt. Like that is how like you know that is like the end of the witch's story. Right. So it's interesting because it's not like the spoilers or the exposition of the movie is even what is captivating people. It is literally like the emotional relationship of these characters, of the music, of all of the between the lines.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like I was completely affected by the movie knowing
everything about it.
I literally, before One Short Day, I literally turned to Connor and I was like, we're only at track 9, baby.
Yeah.
Like, I know every, you know. Okay, but so that being said, we need to like actually talk about the movie, though, not just its impact. Okay. The movie, beginning.
I mean, I could probably talk for the next 45 minutes just about No One Mourns the Wicked, if I'm being completely honest.
Really?
Okay, so as soon as the overture started, like I immediately started crying, like lost my whole mind. Like I was like, I was like, ah.
The sound, well, because the sound
is so good.
Like
it's so good.
Like as Connor Smith says, like you just cannot compete with the Hollywood like budget and the Hollywood scoring. Like we now know what Wicked sounds like with a 100-piece orchestra, and like it is insane.
And like
it's insane.
Dozens and dozens and dozens of singers. You know, not just the ensemble that we can fit on stage, right? My favorite part about No One Mourns the Wicked is, so I was telling my best friend this. So me and my best friend D, we like sent each other back and forth, like probably a collective of like 2 hours worth of voice memos after we saw the movie. And I was like, this itself could just be like turned into like a bonus episode of a podcast, just like stitching all of those together. No One Mourns the Wicked. Obviously, it's an amazing way to open the show. It's such a brilliant song. Yeah. I love it. I love everything about it. My favorite part was the way Ariana played her role in that song. And I think so often in the stage version of Wicked, Dee said, she was like, I feel like they're told not to play the ending. So when they're singing, let us be glad, let us be grateful, like the Glindas are very earnest. Like you're like, oh, she's really happy that the Wicked Witch is dead, because it feels like they're directed not to play the ending. And we know the ending, right? So I don't think Ariana was bound by that limitation. And the way she played Glinda's sorrow during that song, like radically changed the way I feel about Glinda as a character. Like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, okay. I'm here now. I've never given a shit about Glinda. Like to me, the story has always been about Elphaba. It's always been weird to me that they take their bows together at the end of the show, because I'm like, girl, we are not equals, you know, like that. But that's just always been the way I've perceived the story. And this movie, starting with No One Mourns the Wicked, and we can continue on in chronological order, but like her characterization of Glinda is the first time I have ever given a single shit about Glinda in a way that wasn't just how she furthered Elphaba's story. I actually care. And it started with No One Mourns the Wicked and her sorrow.
There was so much depth in like her
so much depth in the way that she acted it. And it was her acting choices. It was also a lot of like the shots and the way it was directed, where like there's this one part specifically where they're singing about, her being alone. And as they're singing, as the ensemble is singing about, the Wicked Witch being alone, everybody leaves Glinda and she's standing in the middle of the entire ensemble and they're all dancing around her and she's alone. Like it's so brilliant. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. It just like right from the get-go, like it was they are telling like a different story than the Broadway show in just the way that they're painting it. Because like Connor points out that, in the first like good news, like they did not do like there's this like really like depth of like chord structure, like kind of minor-y in the Broadway one, but in this it's like fully major, like fully celebratory. There's also that little like ding dong da 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 like reference.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because they're not in the Broadway show, they're introducing us to the world still. Like they're introducing us to the language of where are we, this music, but like we have a 2.5 hour movie to go. So like we, you know, they opened with the shot of the hat, like, you know, we got the overture. So then they like really were able to then lean into that like positivity of like the celebration of it. Also like the moment that she like goes to leave and then they're like, is it true you were her friend or whatever? And she's like, I'm sorry, what? Just a second. And then she like pops I was like, oh, we're in good hands. Yeah. Which also, I just have to take this moment to say, I knew Ariana Grande was going to be brilliant.
I will say I have never been a hater. I've never been, and like, Ariana shouldn't be in this role. Like, I've never been that. I always knew she was going to sing it incredibly.
Yeah.
And I always knew that she was going to do a good job. I think what I didn't expect was how much depth she added.
I mean, the acting.
I knew she would be good. She's been an actor her whole life, right? I knew she would be good. Let me put it that way. And I knew she would sing it incredibly. I did not expect the depth. And I did not expect how fucking funny she is.
Hilarious.
Her comedic timing is absolutely genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
She's funny as hell.
Yeah. And in fact, this actually leads me to something. It's time. Superfan moment of the week. Because Ariana Grande is the super fan moment of the week. She is because not only am I a super fan of her this week, but she is the super fan of Wicked.
The Wicked super fan.
Yeah, because I have so many things to say about Ariana Grande. One, I always knew she was going to be amazing. Yep. I believed in it wholeheartedly. I got in a humongous fight with a friend of mine when they announced the casting because he was like, they're just casting her for her name. And I was like, absolutely not. And I was like, you actually don't need to cast somebody as a name for this movie to sell. That was just my opinion because Cynthia Erivo's not a name or wasn't really.
John Chu actually said his original intention was to cast no names. The original intention was to cast unknowns.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think he said Ariana was like one of the last people they cast, if not the last person. And he said every single time they brought her back for, you know, whatever it was, we want to do this, we want to do this. He was like, every single time she was the most interesting person in the room.
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't want to cast her because of who she is. She's a globally known artist. I didn't want to cast her.
Right.
And every single time she was the most interesting person in the room. And I'm like, I'm thinking like, yeah, that feels right. But then I'm also like, damn, like what a compliment for somebody to say about you. Right. Like
amazing.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. She just like, I knew that she would be good after I saw Don't Look Up because I thought she was hilarious in that. Yes. And so I was like, she'll be fine. Also like she is musical theater, but like really like we have her to thank for this movie because she like, they have said that like she was the Wicked, dramaturg.
Yeah, basically.
Set. That like literally John Chu, if he was like gonna cut a line or whatever, she was like, no, you can't. Because you know, and also you know they proposed to her to do a hip hop version of Popular that she was like.
Stephen Schwartz was like, I think we want to change Popular and like modernize it. And she was like, no.
Yeah, like
we're doing it the way it's done.
She's like obsessed with Wicked. And I just was like, this is why you need to cast people that love what they're doing to do it, because then they do it justice. Like she was doing her own thing, but it was such a Kristen Chenoweth homage.
Yeah.
But with the perfect marriage. Like
it was perfectly respectful of something that she clearly holds a lot of regard for, with adding in her own little flair in a way that just, it felt so correct.
Yes.
It felt correct.
For somebody that has, 367 million followers on Instagram or whatever, she literally played this role with zero ego.
None.
Like, it was not about her at all. It was about the story and the characters and the fans, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it just, there was nothing in there that she was like, I have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, because it's it just was a selfless, egoless performance, and I want her to win the Oscar.
I do too. I really do. I really think she deserves it.
Yeah, and because she kept the integrity of that film.
Yeah.
Because also, that she what is it? Comped? Is that the word? She comped Cynthia's Defying Gravity vocals.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So Cynthia literally was like, Ariana was the only person that I trusted with any vocal, probably really any choice at all.
Ariana is actually kind of a master when it comes to self-production,
yes,
and the way she produces herself and does her vocals and everything.
Yes.
It's always fascinating when she posts those videos. I love it.
She's credited as vocal producer on every track on the album.
Wow.
Even if she's not in it.
That's amazing.
Because she was in the studio with Cynthia, and Cynthia would when she would do all of her choices, Ariana would be like, yes, no, oh, that, she helped her, which comped, I don't know, can you explain what that means? I actually didn't even know what it was until you explained it to me.
Comping vocals is basically, you have a bunch of takes that you do of a song, and some of them sound better than others, and sometimes you breathe in a certain spot, or sometimes you do a different riff, and comping them together just means compositing those takes together. In a way, compiling them together, the best parts of each take. So sometimes that, might mean 4 bars from one take. Sometimes it might mean every 3 words are a different take. It just depends. And there really is an art to it, because it has to sound natural, right? You have to make it feel like it was always meant to be woven together in that way, even if you're comping together 50 different versions of something. And Ariana Grande truly is a master of comping vocals. She's so good.
Yeah, there's a clip of her with Max Martin, and she's telling him to do something in Pro Tools, and then she tells him the shortcut. She's like, it's Command Shift 9 or whatever, because I also, because this is the Childless Millennials, this is so funny, and I asked her permission if I could talk about this on the pod. So because this is the Childless Millennials, and we are childless millennials.
We are.
We know who Ariana Grande is. My sister is a millennial. She is not childless. She's definitely not childless. And literally texted me and was like, wait, Ariana Grande is amazing. She didn't know. She was like, Jacob, up until this point, I literally thought Ariana Grande was black and that she was playing Elphaba. And I was like, and that's what it means to be a childful millennial.
So she's never heard an Ariana Grande song?
No. She's not,
no Greedy, no 7 Rings, no.
Well, maybe she has if she's in the store and but she literally
but just had no context for who she was at all.
And I was like, Deidre, I have to bring this up on my podcast, because she was watching her on SNL, and she was like, oh my God, she's really talented.
She's very
And then
funny.
she went down a YouTube rabbit hole and was watching her sing Celine Dion and all that. And she's like, oh, she's really good. And I was like, yes. But I actually attribute it less to, childless, childful. I think it's really more that being a musical theater person, I was shut off from pop. And so I used to hate Ariana Grande. I used to shit talk her all the time. I was like, she can't, enunciate words, blah, 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 blah. I just was so a hater to be a hater, because I hated all pop music and wasn't interested. But she's everything.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yes.
To track 2. Yeah. Okay, Shiz. That set insane.
Oh my gosh. The way that they portrayed Shiz in this movie, I'm obsessed. We get there by boat. And
crazy.
We're on and everything is the whole school is on the water, and it was just it was so pretty.
It was so good.
It was so good.
It was so good.
And I love their uniforms.
Yeah.
I love something that's very interesting to me is Keala Settle's character.
Right. Which is that from the show, or is that from the book or something?
I don't know. It's
It's like Mrs.
She's
Cuddle
in the book.
Something.
Yeah. But I'm interested to see what happens in part 2 because I did hear somewhere that I think they've added songs for part 2.
Yes, there is new music in part 2.
How do you have Keala Settle in the movie and not have her sing? It's like Patti LuPone being an Agatha and not singing.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting choice as well. But like, so I feel like maybe she'll have like a bigger like singing role in part 2. I don't know. Cause like, I don't know. I just think, I thought it was so interesting to see her and then for it to go on and I'm like, oh, you're not singing. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know. But The Wizard and I like was my first like crying, like bad crying moment of because it was so good. It was so good, and the way Cynthia plays it is so. I mean, the song is, but it's so hopeful and like so joyful, and I love the way she played it. I loved the way she sang it. Oh yeah, did you know it was my Book of Mormon audition song? No. When I'm telling you, Wicked like literally is my everything. Yeah. So in Book of Mormon, you know, like You and Me, but Mostly Me is I would say it's The Wizard and I wouldn't say it's Defying Gravity. It's a bit of both, but it's more Wizard and I, but it is a bit of both. But it's like, you know, it's the I Want song, and like the thing with Book of Mormon was that they did not want you to come in and like try and be funny. Like they wanted you to be like innocent and heartfelt, which, hello, like that's my specialty. Look at you. So I was like, well, there's nothing like nerdier or like more musical theater than me singing The Wizard and I. Like that's my favorite song ever. And I was like, and it is what that song is based off of, and I want to play Elder Price. So I sang it, but I changed Oz to Utah. Hilarious. And the wizard to the president of the church, Thomas Monson, because so you know how in the show it's like soldiers of the army of the church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I like did and that. And they change it every time. So I literally was like, also like these accompanists, like when I was like, I'm singing The Wizard and I, like they were like, work. Like, so I started. Wait, in the original key? No, I lowered it. Okay. I think I lowered it to whatever would make the top note like a B flat. Okay. But so I started at like unlimited. My future is unlimited. And I've just had a vision almost like a prophecy. I know it sounds truly crazy and true. The vision's hazy. But I swear someday there'll be a celebration throughout Salt Lake. That's all to do with me. And then I did, and I'll stand there with Thomas Monson, feeling things I've never felt. And though I never show it, I'd be so happy I could melt. So it'll be for the rest of my life. I don't want anything else till I die. Held in such high esteem. When people see me, they will scream. For half of Utah's favorite team. The president, because then it's in the clear. There's no accompaniment. So I was like, the president of the church, Thomas Monson. And I booked it. And you booked it. Not that time, but I had a callbacks. Yeah. I thought that was a genius audition choice. That is brilliant, actually. That's amazing. Yeah. But she like Cynthia, I actually feared, not that I think she's too old, but like I think of her as just like as a human is so like grounded and like and she's so and like powerful. Mature and like regal. Yes. And so for her to give this like really like vulnerable childlike like young performance was pretty unbelievable. My sister hasn't seen the movie yet, but she listened to the soundtrack and she has seen Wicked before, so it's not like anything new for her, but she just hasn't been to the movies to see it yet. And she listened to the soundtrack and she called me and she was like, how old is Cynthia Erivo? And I was like, I don't know, like I think she's in her 30s. And my sister was like, she sounds like a child in The Wizard and I. And she was like, I had no idea. Because my sister is like, she's on the internet. So she's seen like the interviews and stuff like that and like the clips. And she's like, her speaking voice is so different than her singing voice. And she was like, she sounds like a teenager in The Wizard and I. And I was like, I mean, that's kind of the point of the song, right? Is like,
excuse me, she's hopeful and she's like finally feeling like a sense of belonging, but it's also naive. That's how it should read. It's also this space in her life where she's literally having a vision of them celebrating her death, and she's like, they're gonna love me,
which I loved that they really like leaned into the whole like vision thing. Mm-hmm. Because then, like, later when she's having, like, visions of the animals and stuff, like, those have always just been, like, poetic lyrics in the show. But to, like, actually
no, like, she
her, like,
sees the future.
Yeah,
she, like fully, that's that so magical. Ravens. Yeah. You could gaze into the future. She does.
But it was my, like, first meltdown of the movie because that was, like, my national anthem, like as a child or a 13-year-old or whatever when it came out. And like, I had such a parallel with Wicked, right? Because it's like, it's this idea of, following your dreams and, the thing that you think makes you cursed will one day be a gift. Mm-hmm. And which is how I felt about, my gifts as a performer, that I was told by everybody were gifts and everything. And then like, Wicked being a musical and my Emerald City being Broadway. Yeah. Like that was like, it was twofold, right? It's like that Wicked was a musical and whatever. And so it's like to reconnect, because I haven't seen the show in a really long time, but like to reconnect with like, oh my God, like that's why I did this was like because of what this character did and, encouraged me to do through their story was to like follow my dreams and
so cool to see that reflected in the actors that are playing Glinda and Elphaba, and like especially to go back to Ariana Grande, like she has been saying for over a decade that she wanted to be in Wicked. She also had very similar experiences to us, like seeing it for the first time, and it was her whole personality. And like for years and years and years, she has talked about it whenever she could, and has said, if I ever had an opportunity, she's sung songs from the show in so many different venues and like in so many different ways for different performances. Yeah. And so it is really cool to see that paralleled not only in our own lives in certain ways, and we're seeing it happen in the movie, but then to see that it's also happening for them as actors at the same time.
Yeah, and
it's really cool. It's like the sense of like, I don't know you and I will never know you, but we have like camaraderie about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your subgroup of people that have a thing to you that is so powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, Loathing, like the choreo.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I loved it. What's something bad in the movie, is that after Dancing Through Life in the movie?
It's right before.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. And I only know because I listened to it on the way here.
Hilarious. I think we're at Jonathan Bailey now, right? Who is like the sexiest man to ever walk the face of the earth?
Literally ever.
It's actually ridiculous.
No, for real. I posted as soon as I left the theater for the first time watching the movie. I was like, season 2 of Bridgerton was Jonathan Bailey's audition for Fiyero.
See, I haven't seen Bridgerton.
You haven't?
No.
Season 2 was his audition. It's this whole like, what?
You haven't seen Bridgerton season 2.
I haven't seen Bridgerton season 1.
Season 1
is Jonathan.
Is Jonathan Bailey's season.
How many seasons are there?
3. He's in all of them, but so each season of Bridgerton is about a different Bridgerton sibling, and season 2 is Anthony Bridgerton's season, which is his character.
Okay.
But the whole season is, I mean, it's literally he accidentally meets this girl on a horse.
The same horse.
Yeah. Actually like bumps into this girl on a horse in the woods, and they exchange like attitude banter because like she's not where she's supposed to be, and he's like, what are you doing here? And then like time goes on, and he ends up like engaged to her sister, but like actually loves her, and like the whole thing is this like, will they, won't they can't, they shouldn't, like and it's like the attitude back and forth. It's literally him and it's literally Fiyero and Elphaba, but it's season 2 of Bridgerton. It's a different story, and like you have to watch it because you're gonna know exactly what I mean as soon as you see it. Like even their first meeting, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Was there even any other option for Fiyero to be like? Who else could have even done that? I really don't even know.
I really don't know. Not the way he did it.
He literally is Fiyero. Like yeah. The way that
technically Pan, because there are animals involved in the book. Technically Fiyero is pansexual. If you read the book. They sure did.
Yeah, he was just it. He was so good.
Yeah. I'm that Dancing Through Life, I was like, oh, cool. So everybody that goes to Shiz is queer in some way, shape, or form. And they're all in love with him.
Period.
Got it. Okay.
Period.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
I am Shiz. Right here. The little name tag.
I am Shiz.
I loved Dancing Through Life. I loved the choreography is just incredible. That set was gorgeous. Like the rotating bookshelves.
There's
with like the parkour
video.
artists.
There's a whole video on YouTube where they talk about it. Did you watch it?
I haven't watched the whole thing, no.
It's actually insane.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy, that set.
Yeah.
With what they did and how they had to do it. It's like a video with every designer and department talking about it. Nuts.
One of my favorite moments of the whole movie is our first fight.
Oh yeah.
so
funny.
That whole interaction between the two of them when she's like saying like, oh well, I've promised to give any new students a tour of the campus or whatever she says, and then she's like, oh, you're a new student, I hadn't noticed. Like the whole banter back and forth between the two of them was so cute. I actually saw somebody on Threads. It was the most insane take I've seen about the whole movie, other than people who think that Elphaba is Donald Trump.
What?
We'll get to that. The most insane take that I've seen was that Jonathan Bailey doesn't have any charisma.
Oh, people. You know what? This is.
And I said, did we watch the same?
See, this is Threads.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote a friend of mine. This is the problem with things like Twitter and Threads is some people don't deserve an opinion.
I feel
some people just
correct.
Shouldn't have a platform to say their opinion because their opinion is wrong.
It's wrong. It's wrong. Yeah.
What do they think charisma is?
Yo no sé. I don't know.
It was amazing. The whole sequence in the middle of Dancing Through Life, like with the two of them. I mean, it's just so painful to watch.
Yes.
It's just so awkward and just they just like really make you sit in it for like a long time,
which I didn't hate. Like it was so powerful, and I was ugly crying. Oh, also in Dancing Through Life, something that I just can't get over is just how absolutely cold Madame Morrible is to Glinda. Like when she like brings her the wand and she's like, thank you. Like, I'm just so happy that you believe in me. And she's like, oh, I actually don't think you're worth a single shit.
Yeah.
But okay, go have fun with your friends.
Right.
Like Michelle, like spoiler kind of for Act 2, like Madame Morrible is sinister.
Yeah.
And I think the way Michelle Yeoh started to weave that in from the very beginning, I loved it. I thought that moment was so cold.
Yeah.
It made me think of her character in Crazy Rich Asians. Have you seen Crazy Rich Asians? When she like stops the girl on the stairs and is like, oh, you'll never be good enough for my son. Like that's all I could see. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is a really, really, like, it was cold. It was cold.
It was. I actually thought that maybe she was a little too cold, to be honest. But if you loved it, I'm willing to because I just was like, I wanted more of a. I think that Madame Morrible is like so unsuspecting. Like Connor was like, she's like Mrs. Weasley. Like she's supposed to be just like this character-y campy.
Yeah, she's like
which I don't think that would have worked for the film. Like I don't think that you can be like a camp like because Keala Settle had the like morable energy more than Michelle Yeoh. Like, but I just thought like from the beginning I was like, oh, Michelle Yeoh is giving villain like right off the bat.
It's like in the stage show, I feel like the way Morrible is usually played is like you think she's Professor Trelawney, but she's actually Dolores Umbridge.
Right.
And to me, Michelle Yeoh just started weaving in Umbridge a lot sooner.
Sure.
And I am looking forward to part 2 because I think it will make what happens in part 2 even bigger.
Oh, okay.
And I think that
so you think she went from like bad to baddest as opposed to like good to bad?
Yes.
Because, like it's bad or bad.
Yeah, and we're like talking about the spectacle of it, right? About how like this just feels so huge.
Yeah.
I think that we're gearing up for like her role in Act 2 to feel even bigger.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even more sinister. Also, oh my God, I could go on so many tangents. I think people are really misunderstanding the difference between foreshadowing and Easter eggs. So I just wanted to say that, like right off the bat, like people are like really misunderstanding things like that. Like the red shoes and Popular, like that's an Easter egg. Like that's a nod to something.
Right.
But then there are other things that are like very much foreshadowing.
Like intentional.
Like intentional foreshadowing, like box posture. You know, like there are things like that are intentional.
Yeah.
One thing that I love that I didn't notice until the second time I watched it was when they're in class and they're talking about like why people started to turn on the animals, and it started with the Great Drought, and then Madame Morrible says that she can control the weather.
Gag.
Remember, because Elphaba gets her letter to go to the Emerald City and it starts raining, and she literally says, "I can control the weather," and makes the rain go away.
Oh, that's a Kaylin, that's a gag.
That's what I mean by like, I think the reason she's starting off more sinister instead of unassuming,
it's gonna get like really bad.
It's gonna get real bad.
Damn.
And I'm looking forward to that trajectory. I just think it's gonna be so good.
Oh shit.
Yes.
That's crazy. Wow.
I leaned over to Zach and I was like, the Great Drought. She controls the weather. And Zach was like,
so I realized watching this, which this is not a Act 2 spoiler. This is just what happens in The Wizard of Oz, is that in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch dies and then the wizard leaves, which is like interesting. Why would he need to leave if she's dead? Which like, I don't think that's like necessarily, I actually don't think it's addressed in the stage show, like with the wizard. Like, I don't think we see, but I was like, I want to see, I don't want part 2 to end where the musical ends.
Yeah.
I want
we're
additional
gonna get
scene
more
after.
And there have already been some photos released. I don't know if they were released or leaked of like scenes from The Wizard of Oz in part 2.
Oh yeah.
Like with like Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion like in front of the wizard, and like her wearing the shoes and things like that.
Right.
That I think we're gonna get to see more fleshed out in part 2, which I'm really excited.
Totally.
Because in the stage show it just kind of touches on like the existence of that storyline, but it's kind of in the background, so to speak, for lack of a better term. It's just like, okay, now we've met up with the story that we're familiar with, is kind of how it feels in the stage show.
Right.
So I think we're going to get a little bit more of that in part 2, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Okay, Dancing Through Life, then One Short Day was incredible. Oh, Popular. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I mean, Popular was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was
I loved
brilliant. My favorite thing is when she's like, "Don't make me laugh," or whatever. They were, and then Elphaba goes, "Popular." Right.
Did you see that she posted she didn't realize that she had done that?
No.
So Ariana Grande posted a video and she was like, I didn't realize that that's how I did it. And like, that was the take until I was listening back to it in the studio.
Hilarious.
You know, because they did the live vocals and then they went back into the studio and stuff like that. So she did not know that until she heard it in the studio when she was going back in to record additional vocals. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. I love her comedy in Popular. I love the practical effects of like all of her like wardrobe pieces.
Oh my God, the prop department?
Apparently,
insane.
I saw today, I did not vet this. I don't know if this is true, so don't call me a liar if it's not. Apparently, all of those were not like automated. There were people in all of those
I believe
cases, like pushing things out and pulling them back in. And like when they were like popping open and whatnot,
I totally believe
there were people in them. And I guess because their suite was so small, there was, and it's fully enclosed. It's a fully practical set, that room. There was nowhere for John Chu to like be. So he was under Glinda's bed. With a monitor.
Hilarious.
While they were filming Popular.
Oh my God.
I just thought that was really funny.
It was so good.
It was very good.
So good. Yeah, One Short Day. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I thought that their cameo was like a little heavy-handed, but I still lived for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I loved it. I did not know that was going to happen. Did you know they were going to be in
clue.
it? Okay.
No clue at all.
So I'm like, I got to be real. Okay. I'm getting a little bit roasted right now on the internet because I made a post on Threads and I said, whoever was in charge of keeping that scene a secret needs to be in charge of locking down part 2. And I said, I don't want any leaks. I don't want any spoilers, right? And I'm getting a little bit roasted because people are like, what do you mean no spoilers for a story that's 20 years old?
People
and I'm like, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that the movie's already finished, like, or at least in editing, right? It's already been filmed. So I don't want it to get leaked. I don't want to see, I don't want that, like, because that ruins shit, right? When things get leaked. But also,
you're also talking about one of the only moments of the movie that was new. That was the only new piece of music.
It was it.
Yeah, so like, no, I'm not saying to keep no good deed under wraps. I'm saying don't give me the new shit.
Yeah, and even to what we were saying earlier, this movie has brought in an entirely new group of people who actually don't know what happens in Act 2.
Oh yeah.
There are some turns that happen and some character reveals that people actually don't know and might not have picked up on the foreshadowing in this movie. And there are things that happen that are surprising. And I think those people deserve not to have those things spoiled.
100%.
And the number of comments, because like I posted it and I got a bunch of comments under it, and then somebody took my post and like reposted it on their Instagram, and there are a bunch of comments under it that are like, what the fuck are you talking about spoilers? Everybody needs to shut up about spoilers. Everybody knows what happens. And I'm like, no, actually, they don't. People don't know, and they deserve the experience of seeing this new and fresh for the first time without assholes like you people in the comments ruining it for them.
It was all you were referencing the only surprise of the entire movie for anybody that knows the show.
People started commenting because all I said was that scene. I just put like that scene in capital letters, and people started replying to it, saying what the scene was, and I was deleting their replies.
Period.
And I was like, if you come under my post and ruin this for people, your responses will be deleted and you will be blocked. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
But that being said,
before somebody drops a house on you.
I loved the like deepening of the lore of Oz, that there were like 2 witches and they had this magic and they put it in the Grimmery. Like it was giving the Grimmery. It was giving Harry Potter, like that she's like the chosen one. It makes like the wizard's story make more sense.
Yeah.
Like, I loved like that build of stakes.
Yeah. I loved the physical like passing of the torch in that scene when like Kristen goes to Ariana and Adina goes to Cynthia, and like they have that moment, like, and then like Ari's Glinda like tries to sing, and like Kristen Chenoweth like slaps her hand over her mouth. Like, that was so Glinda. Like that was such a Glinda to Glinda thing to like, it was just, it was very surprising. It it was very fan servicey.
Yeah.
But I am the fan,
I loved it.
and I was serviced.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
I loved
mad.
it. Like, I wasn't like, you know, I just was like, oh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
somebody actually had messaged me on the way here. The guy who introduces that sequence was a Fiero.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I didn't know that.
That's
I was
fun.
having a conversation with a girl on Instagram on the way here, and she was like, people aren't realizing that either. Like, everybody's talking about Adina and Kristen,
fun.
but the guy who announces that sequence was a Fiero, I guess.
I wonder which Fiero it was.
I don't know. We're going to have to look it up. I know. That would have been very cool.
I hope he's in part 2.
I hope so,
Norbert
too.
Leo Butz is a goat.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is everything.
Absolutely. Now, wait a minute.
Oh,
Connor.
Connor. Do you know that took me like 2.7 seconds to get like 1,000 to 1,000.7?
How dare you?
Well, first of all, the whole like Oz Great like temple is just like it's a fully practical set.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
It was beautiful.
insane, and dismantle it, pack it up, and throw it in Universal Studios immediately because bitch, Epic Universe needs Oz yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, we need this.
Yeah.
We need this now, and I need the Escape from the Wizard attraction that the queue is going down that hallway.
It's inside the palace.
And then you have your
you're
thing.
being chased by the flying monkeys.
Yes.
And,
Yes. And then like your cart goes like back, like I need the defying gravity. I joked when they said that they were going to do the overlay of Maelstrom for Let It Go. I was like, you're literally going to go, the past is in the past, let it go.
And that's
as you go
exactly
back.
what happened.
Yes. And I'm like, I need the defying gravity ride
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Now.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's giving that universal aesthetic.
What would be really cool is if they used like a ride vehicle system similar to Rise of the Resistance. Have you been on Rise of the Resistance?
In Florida?
It's the same here.
Rise.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. In Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge, where like you're like running like through the palace, right? Like in like the ride vehicle, but then like there's the drop that happens that it becomes like a Tower of Terror kind of drop. Like imagine that sort of like ride vehicle system and like defying gravity, like with that drop, and that like that'd be really sick.
I want a combination of that technology with the escape. Not escape. The Hogwarts ride. Where you're like,
like the original one.
Escape. No. Yeah, no, the original.
No,
Universal
Forbidden
one.
Journey.
Forbidden Journey. Because what I want to be in a ride vehicle, but then Elphaba uses the levitating spell on your ride cart, and then the arm comes and like lifts it up. And
that'd
like,
be cool.
You're like flying.
Oh, I do like that.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Because
that actually sounds similar to what they're doing with the new Iron Man ride that's going to go in DCA. It's something similar. There's like a claw sort of something that happens with the new Iron Man ride. But
period.
So the technology is there. Create Oz and Epic Universe.
But like you know in Rise of the Resistance when you like walk in and you see all the stormtroopers, like that's what they like. You need that for the wizard.
Yeah.
And then you like go to the right and like yeah. Connor's like, this podcast is so long. Okay, so defying gravity. I mean, the whole build up to that sequence is truly incredible, and I just like lost it.
Yeah.
I going back to what I was like originally saying of like what Wicked means to me. Like, I always identified with Wizard and Elphaba, but I hadn't seen the show in a very long time. And like, you know, I was 13 when it came out. I didn't like understand the politics of it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand falling in love, all of that, blah, blah. But like, you know, my Emerald City was Broadway.
Yeah.
And so then when she's like, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
I was like wrecked.
Yeah.
You know, because it was just like, I was shocked at how much of my life had like mirrored the thing that inspired me as a 13-year-old because I was just like, yeah, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
And like just I feel like everything that has happened to me in the last year, as far as like trying to stand up for things that are right and like, you know, reporting things in the workplace and all of that. And like, just like being unrelenting of like my justice.
Yeah.
Was like, I just was like really, really shocked. I was like, oh, like I have tried to live my life as Elphaba.
Yeah.
Which leads me to that I've decided I want a tattoo.
Okay. Come on.
So I've never had a tattoo, but you're a tattoo queen and
tattoo
Zach.
Girly.
And so like the thing is I just like, I was so like defeated and dejected like after this year for a variety of reasons. And like when she's like, it's the wizard who should be afraid of me. I was like, I don't ever want to forget that ever again, because it is the wizard who should be afraid.
Yeah.
And so I really want to get a tattoo like on my wrist that says it's me. Because when she's like, it's me, but I want it like on the right hand because that's where she grabs the broom. So I want it like some sort of magical, like it's me.
Yeah.
Like so that I never forget that ever again. A spiritual experience in defying gravity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, not to like get to, because we could also do like a whole other episode that's just like the politics of Wicked and how it's still unfortunately so fucking relevant.
Yeah, because she's Donald Trump.
Girl.
Actually, it's funny though. It's not really because like Donald Trump is not the wizard because the wizard is actually smart and useful and talented. Like that's like the thing that's crazy to me is I'm like,
he's not magic, but he's an engineer.
Yeah, like
he's a literal
actually
engineer.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
like and like that's the thing is like Donald Trump is not brilliant.
Yeah, no, that was the like the actual. I was being facetious earlier with the Jonathan Bailey thing, but the actual craziest take that I saw was like that like MAGA Republicans are watching this movie and like genuinely feel like Donald Trump is Elphaba and is like being oppressed. Like that's how they view it. It's like it's
just crazy because he's like I don't understand people anymore that
me either. I don't get it.
Feel oppressed when they're the ones in power.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you won everything. You are not oppressed.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was like, it's interesting to me seeing those takes because those are the same people who like in the same breath will brag about how like the landslide popular vote. And it's like, okay, so is he oppressed or is he the most popular person in America? Like which one is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's psycho. It's just psycho.
No, I thought that again, the way that Cynthia and Ariana like added depth to those characters was just like most on display in those interstitial moments in Defying Gravity when they're talking to each other, or you know when she goes and like gets her the cloak and it's like she did make her popular, you know, like if you think about it, right, like she gave her the hat and the cloak, she created the Wicked Witch, like she did make her popular, just not in the way that she thought she would. And
fuck
yeah, and like it's like there's so many layers to it, and it all comes to this like beautiful culmination in Defying Gravity. And like at one point she is running away with her, she gets in the balloon, right?
Yeah.
And then they can't leave, and it's this, you know, this back and forth, and so finally when they get to the acceptance of like, I hope you're happy, it feels like they mean it. You know, I've seen it in the show before where it's like, I don't know that I always feel like they mean it when they, you know, I hope you're happy sometimes feels like a little bit of a jab. And I felt like the way that they did it, it didn't. It felt true and authentic. And it's like, oh, wow, they like really have come so far as friends. And I also said this to my sister the other day. I was like, it's very interesting because, you know, going back to like how Ariana Grande plays the sorrow in No One Mourns the Wicked, she actually calls Elphaba her friend more than Elphaba calls her friend. Like she's the first one to say like, we're just two friends, and then Elphaba's like, two good friends, and she says two best friends.
Right.
And then, you know, it's I don't know. I'm rambling because honestly, I could say a million things about it. But
you saying that Glinda really did make Elphaba popular just like literally shook me to my core. I'm gagged.
Yeah, she made her popular.
Yeah, fuck.
She gave her the hat. She gave her the cloak.
Right.
She created the Wicked Witch.
That's a crazy
take.
So
to me, like when I think about that and then I go back to No One Mourns the Wicked, because people are like, there's all these people who shouldn't have opinions and shouldn't have a public forum like social media for their wrong opinions, talking about how like Glinda's the villain. And I categorically disagree. That's completely false. The whole point of the show is, it's good versus wicked, but how we're all capable of good and wicked things.
Right.
And Glinda embodies both at any given point. But thinking of that, it takes me back to, how she did make her popular. She gave her the look, the aesthetic that everybody, associates now with the Wicked Witch of the West. You go back to No One Mourns the Wicked, when she takes the fire and burns the effigy, it's like, oh, she's not burning her friend. She's burning this image that she gave her, right? Like, she's it's not this like fuck you to somebody who used to be her friend. It's this is what we made her, and she doesn't have to be that anymore. Is kind of how I read it.
Well, and it's also that like, I mean, I think that the character of Glinda is really interesting because like she made her bed. Yeah. And she knows that she made her bed, and so she knows that she has to lie in it now. And I found this Defying Gravity to be interesting because in the show, it feels like so much more time has passed between like Popular and One Short Day. Like it just feels like that maybe by the time you get to One Short Day, it kind of feels like maybe they're like in their second or third year of school. I haven't seen the show in a while, but that's always how I felt. Like by the time you get to Defying Gravity, like it really feels like they are really besties.
Yeah.
And so it makes more sense to me as to why it's like, come with me, think of what we could do together. It's like, no, like they're besties, they're inseparable. Like they have to go together. And so your heart breaks that like Glinda doesn't. But in this, my heart broke because when Elphaba's like, come with me, you're like, girl, what is she gonna do?
Well, and
she has no power. Like
the thing is that as soon as Glinda does have power, right? And like they touch on that in Popular, where she's like, do you think those people were smart? No, they were popular.
Right.
She understands the power that she has as someone with influence. But the moment she gets on that broom, she loses her power of influence because now she's a fugitive, right? So it's this moment of like unlimited, like if we work in tandem, there's no fight we can't win. But even in saying that, Glinda has to realize, if I leave, I lose what power I do have. The thing that makes
me special.
She has magic. I have influence.
Right.
And if I go with her, I lose what I have.
So then
to even try to make this better.
Yeah, so she's actually useless to Elphaba if she goes.
If she goes with her, she's completely useless to their cause. And so then again, like this movie actually genuinely made me give a shit about Glinda. Like I've never cared other than that, like her choices and how she exists in the show further Elphaba's story and the progression of her character. But I just like, I walked away from this with like a completely different feeling about Glinda and the choices that she makes. And it made so much sense because it's like, no, like Glinda does have power, but her power is her status and her influence. Right. And as soon as she becomes a fugitive with Elphaba, she loses those things. Right. And then what? Elphaba has magic that she doesn't even know how to use. You know, she's never really used it before. So it's like, sure, we could be unlimited together, but we can't be on the same side.
Right. As you're saying this, I'm also realizing that this is why she was the perfect Glinda, because like she is Glinda. Like Conroy says, like, playing a pop princess is a role in and of itself. Yeah. And it's like Ariana Grande has played this role of like this pop diva, like this is who I am. But it's like, that was a character. Like she's actually a genius and a technician and an you know, an artist and a you know, engineer. Like she's all of these things, but it's like I have to like put my little ponytail up here and like
she created a persona.
Yes.
She created an image.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. It just really, the movie like really melted my like cold dead heart. I feel like after the election, I really was like, wow, like what I do has literally no value to this earth. Like I don't, but like I used to say that like I did musical theater because I felt that if everybody saw Wicked, that like we would not have wars anymore. Yeah. Like that's like how strongly I believed in like the power of musical storytelling and musical theater. And like after this election, I was just like, I guess that these stories are like not resonating with people and they're not changing people for the better. And for like people just like aren't getting it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not reaching people. But I was just like so reminded in watching the movie of like how it affected me.
Mm-hmm. And now in like, this medium and with, you know, hate it or love it, the type of marketing that they did for it, it has the potential to make so many other people feel that way.
Right.
And like that have never experienced something like that before. Right. And I think that's what's really been the most special part about it to me, like this time around, is the first time I experienced Wicked, it was for me. And like, it was singular to me. And like, yeah, sure. Like I was able to share with like the people that I went with and like, you know, the few people I knew that had seen it. But like, it was a very like introspective thing for me. And now I'm finding it really, really fun and like joyful to watch other people have that experience.
Oh, yeah.
And to like find community with people about this like amazing work of art that has affected my life for so long.
Yeah.
And like they're coming into it with completely fresh eyes, but still feeling the way I felt 14 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
It's truly transformative.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time are we at? 1:19. Yeah. I mean, and I feel like we sped through.
I do too. That was a speed run.
That was like the movie. It's like the movie, 2.5 hours. I blinked. I was like, that was not 2.5 hours.
Yep. There was one point in the movie where I was like counting like the number of songs we had left.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we've still got a bit of a ways to go. But it wasn't because I was like, oh my God, this movie was so long. It was just, I was sitting there going like, oh wow, like we still have so much more to cover, you know?
Yeah.
It was great.
Because I think that from like Emerald City on, it's like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it takes a long time to get to Defying Gravity. But
that's
yeah, I will. I just like I literally like couldn't stop crying for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Like it was like I was like in a very fragile place.
When I was sending Dee the voice memos, like I did like one about like Ariana Grande is Glinda. I did one about like Jonathan Bailey is. I kind of like did it like by characters and like what I liked about the characters and the actors. And I like couldn't even send her one about Cynthia Erivo. I was like, I'm gonna have to call you next week because every time I would try to start one like talking about Cynthia and Elphaba, I would just start crying.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, you don't want a 4-minute voice memo of me like blubbering through this.
Oh
so yeah, we had to revisit that.
Actually, before we go, I do have a not this. Okay. My not this is it's sort of like a preemptive not this. Okay. And it's not this musical movie starring somebody that can't sing, meaning thank you, Ariana and Cynthia. We're never making another musical movie again where the lead actors can't sing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, we just did it. It was successful. We cast 2 people that are brilliant singers, and that's how it's done. And we're not, as Kamala Harris says, we are not going back. We are not going back, and we are never making another musical again where you hire a leading actor who can't sing. Emma Watson, thank you for your service. You will never be in another musical movie again. Because when that bitch ran into that field and then we heard Melodyne on I Want to Adventure in the... We're just, thank you. Thank you for what you gave us. Loved the movie. Your acting was great. But thanks to Ariana and Cynthia, not these musical movies hiring people that can't sing. It's never happening again. A supporting role, if you sing 8 bars, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know. Whatever. But Ariana and Cynthia have changed the game. Only singers from now on.
Not her
Take the mics away from the non-singers.
Not Hermione catching strays in our Wicked episode.
No, but do you know what I mean?
No, I get it. Yeah.
I was just like, that's how we're doing it from now on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's our show. We have to stop or we won't
We have to stop. We have to stop
or we won't stop. So feel free to message us on Instagram because we could talk about this for a million more hours and would love to. We are finally in the new studio.
Yeah, it looks a little familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some of the same decor. And so we're going to be filming again. No more audio only in the near future.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for being here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, don't tell me, I'll cry. But if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
And also, if you also knew that Ariana Grande was going to be brilliant as Glinda, leave a little hands up emoji in the comments.
A little praise hand.
Give
us a little praise hand emoji.
All right. Thanks, guys.
The Childless Millennials is a podcast hosted by Jacob Heron and Kaylin Kelly. The show is produced by Connor Warren Smith with music by Connor Warren Smith.